Hello world, welcome back to the Razor RC, and we are at it with pretty epic shootout here. I gotta say, this is the most ambitious video I've tried to make, and we're gonna see how it goes, but we're gonna be doing the 1/10 scale 4x4 brushless monster truck shootouts. We've gathered pretty much every monster truck you can buy on the market today. We've got the top 6 brands. We've got the HPI Bullet MT 2.0 over here on the left, the Arrma Granite 4x4 3S BLX, Team Associated Rival MT10 V2, the Tekno MT410 2.0, the Traxxas Stampede 4x4 brushless, and finally the Maverick Quantum 2 Flux. Hard to remember the names for all these things, but yeah, these are all my RC cars. I've driven all of them, tested all of them, have videos on all of them. So if you want to know more about these, you can check out those individual videos. I'll have links in the description below. But yeah, this is pretty much the ultimate shootout. Now, there are other cars that they call 1/10 scale, like the Traxxas Max or the Big Rock, but theirs are actually bigger than these. I think these are the traditional 1/10 scale 4x4s that you can buy. So we're going to be going through this in order from oldest all the way up to the newest, and talking about each one, the pros and cons, as well as what I really would think about the truck after having driven this. So yeah, let's get into the review. First up is the HPI Bullet MT Flux. So this has been out for, I'd say, like over 20 years at this point. Has had some revisions through the years, so they have been updating. A little bit hard to find at this point and fairly expensive. I think it retails over $400 still. But yeah, this is a bit of a classic. The Bullet does come in 2 versions, an electric brushless version, which is the Flux, as well as a nitro version, which is a 3.0. And you can kind of see what's going on here, that it is something that you could see they have a nitro version because it's got the aluminum chassis, it's got the all steel drivetrain, including dog bones all around. It does have the laydown servo and provisions for a different type of engine type system. Radio is very good. The TF41, big fan of that. A bit hard to find. If you're in Europe, your RC I think still carries this, but in the US it is fairly difficult to find. Pros of this thing: it's an awesome looking truck. Certainly very different than the rest. It's got the aluminum chassis, which only the Tekno also has. It does have 8 shocks all the way around, so kind of a throwback to yesteryear there. And then the main thing I would say is it comes in a nitro version. So if you like this, if you like nitro, you can get one of each and have parts compatibility, that kind of thing. I think the body looks really good. Very classic HPI body, that really good looking orange and black and gray. Downsides to this: I think it is the most fragile in this lineup. Definitely there are weaker areas like these steering knuckles. I actually upgraded to orange aluminum parts. The drive shafts can pop out. Arms are not particularly durable. So overall, the truck I do think is the most fragile. Does need some upgrades. Maybe even go to CVAs in the drive shaft so they don't fall down. It is kind of dated in the design as well. It still uses E-clips in the hinge pins, in the shocks. The 8-shock thing is a little bit weird. The body mount system, as you can see there, it's just little plastic tubes with body clips as stoppers. So yeah, this is very dated at this point. It is fairly expensive. Who would I recommend this for? Really, you got to be an HPI fan. You really got to be able to go through the work of upgrading, getting some aluminum parts to make this somewhat durable. I do think also it runs better on 2S than 3S. 3S is a bit much for this truck. I think 2S works a lot better. Also, the battery tray doesn't accommodate 3S batteries that well. So yeah, overall, really, you got to be a fan of nitro or a fan of HPI, or just want something more of a shelf queen. I think this works. If you want to drive it, you will have to do some upgrades. Next up is the Arrma Granite 4x4 3S BLX V3. So this is probably the one I've driven the most, as you can tell from the body. It's been beat up quite a bit. Still holding up, but definitely in need of some love and care. Pros of this thing: in my opinion, this is actually the most durable of the 6 of these RC cars. I know a lot of people disagree. I'm not saying it's indestructible or doesn't have some slight weaknesses, but for the most part, if you're landing this thing, it is pretty tough. I also think it is the fastest of them. I think this gets close to 50 miles per hour out of the box on 3S. It's pretty good. It is pretty fast. Does triple backflips, that kind of thing. So it is fast. It is durable. Downsides to this is that you know, it requires a little more love and care, a little bit more maintenance, especially here in the motor module. Dirt can definitely get inside, shred up your spur gear, even get dirt into the motor bearings, that kind of thing. So I think that's the cause of a lot of people's issues. I think the shocks also are a little bit dated. They're kind of this, you know, press-on shock rod end, so they're not nice and threaded, so like some of the newer stuff. A little bit more work to work on. So yeah, that's an area I think maybe could be improved. This is a little bit more dated at this point. They do have newer versions of this platform in the 4S lineup, so like the Mojave or the Crane or Outcast 4S does have some improvements that this one doesn't quite yet have, so I wonder if they're going to trickle it down to this. So there might be a V4 in the works, I'm not really sure, but at the time of this video, this is fast, this is durable, not that expensive at about $330 as well, so I think it's pretty good value. It does have a slipper clutch rather than a center differential like some of the other vehicles. It doesn't handle quite as well, but I think these tires are quite good. Definitely a lot of traction in the dirt. It does spins and stunts in the air, so very good truck overall. Next up is the Rival MT10 from Team Associated. A lot of people think this is the best monster truck, and I would say yes, it's very, very good. It sells for about $340 at the time of this video here in the US, and this is the V2, which is pretty much the same as the V1, just with a little bit different style body. Pros of this thing is it drives awesome. It's got a center differential, it handles really well, a lot of tunability, it does have sway bars, you can change out the springs for different adjustments on the shocks, that kind of thing. The tires work really, really well in dirt. They balloon a little bit, so you can definitely do double backflips in the air. It's pretty quick, not as fast as the Arrma Granite in my opinion, but it handles a little better in my opinion. So those are the pros of the truck. Downsides, I would say the radio, kind of poor. Definitely the brakes are pretty strong out of the box, and I have a video on how to tune that without having to change the radio. You can kind of just hack the ESC, get the brake a little bit softer, because that's something you'll want to do, definitely, just so it doesn't like forward flip quite so easily. It's just kind of strong out of the box. There are no tuning provisions for that ESC otherwise, but great little truck. Other areas that might affect you is the motor plate can definitely bend. They do make carbon fiber versions from like M2C, so that is an improvement I would consider making for sure. Motor and AC, a little bit small. They do run a little bit hot, but they will be fine out of the box. You can just drive it like that, but you know, if you want to do more power or something like that, you would have to go to something a little bit bigger if you want to gear up, that kind of thing. The shocks, again, I think are pretty good. Maybe a little bit oversprung out of the box, but this is a great handling little truck. Fantastic vehicle. I think a lot of people think this is one of the best monster trucks out there, and it'd be hard for me to disagree. Then we got this guy, the Tekno MT410 2.0. This is slightly bigger than those other monster trucks, but I think is pretty close in size. It's definitely smaller than the old MT410 1.0, but a four-wheel drive monster truck, but it's different because it comes as a kit, so you will have to assemble it yourself. You have to buy your own electronics, figure out how to fit those in, get your own wheels and tires. You'll even have to find your own body and paint that up. So this is a full-on kit, which makes it pretty nice. I mean, definitely a premium product, high quality, drives really well. It's kind of based off the SCT 410 2.0, which is a full-on race truck. So this is much closer to a race truck than any of those other vehicles. You can tell quality, precision, driving, handling, all that stuff is really, really good. Downsides to this is it's going to be expensive. It's $440 just for the kit. By the time you add all the electronics, the wheels and tires, the body, the paint, the radio, all that, you're going to be closer to more like $800, I'd say, depending on what type of electronics and quality parts you're buying. So it is going to be expensive, but this is definitely one of the best driving out there. Other weaknesses I notice is that the shock pistons do tend to break, do tend to crack if you're doing huge jumps 20 feet plus high in the air, so I would definitely at least go to the machine pistons. Also, it comes with 12mm hexes, so this is 4S capable. The drivetrain, everything will handle 4S, so that's something you may want to look into. I think M2C makes hex adapters for this to run 17mm hexes, so yeah, if you're going to run 4S, I would recommend getting the 17mm wheel adapters so you can run those bigger tires and those bigger hexes. So a great little truck overall. This is like the premium version of all those other things. If you want to go this route, you know, you're gonna have to spend it, but I do think you kind of get what you pay for. Just check out those shock pistons, maybe get the machined ones, and I think you'll have a little bit better time if you're doing big air. But yeah, great little truck overall. It's really the serious enthusiast option, I think. The rest of those are ready to runs and a little bit more for the casual fan. Unless you've been living under a rock, you should recognize this. This is the Traxxas Stampede 4x4. This has been around for like 20 years at this point, so everyone's familiar with this. Hopefully you've heard of this. If not, you know, welcome to RC, but this is the most popular monster truck in its class. I'm sure this thing outsells like everything else combined, if not more than that. It's been around for a long time, and it does come in two versions. This is the brushless edition, which sells for $330 at the time of this video, and they just announced a Stampede 4x4 VXL, which is the 3S capable. So the brushless is 2S, the VXL is 3S, has some slight improvements, better slipper clutch, better electronics, better radio, adjustable turnbuckles and stuff like that. But other than the electronics, they're pretty much the same vehicle, so they share all the same parts, that kind of thing. So, you know, depending on how much power you want to have, you're going to pick different ones. Now, pros of this thing: it is the most widely available truck out there. Everyone knows how to work on this thing. If you want to get parts, your local hobby shop is going to carry parts for sure. Just good support overall. It is kind of a tried and true platform that you really can't go wrong with this. This was actually my first monster truck. I had the original Stampede 4x4 VXL 1.0. This is an update to that, so it's kind of nice that they have been improving it through the years. Downsides to this thing: number one, it's just expensive, right? $330 for this, but it is lower spec than the other ones. This is only 2S capable, goes maybe 25 miles per hour, somewhere around there. The other ones all go like 40 miles per hour plus. So this is going to be the slowest and most expensive, and so that's really the downside of this. Also a little bit harder to fit other batteries within this. You know, it's really made for like Traxxas 3S packs, but you're going to have to find really skinny aftermarket packs if you want to run something different. But overall, you know, a decent choice, just a little bit expensive. I think there are some down spec parts, like the shocks are pretty old. These are again like 25-year-old shocks. Servo again is plastic geared, not particularly fast or strong. And then the brushless edition, the BL2S, is quite slow at about 25 miles per hour. So those are the downsides, but the upsides are, you know, definitely everyone knows about this. You can always get parts and always have this thing up and running. So I think it's actually a decent choice for a beginner. You know, if you're new to RC and you've got a bit of extra money, don't mind spending stuff just to have a little bit of an easier time owning an RC car, I think this is a good choice. But if you're a little bit more of a serious hobbyist, maybe you're looking for your second or third RC car, this is probably not the choice for you. I think there are better deals out there. And this is the newest kid on the block, the Maverick Quantum 2 Flux. Just came out a few weeks ago, so this is obviously the one I've had the least amount of time with, but I have driven it and bashed it a few times, so I do have some experience with it. Sells for $275, which is an amazing price, certainly the lowest of all these monster trucks that you can buy. Substantially lower too, by about 50, 60 bucks. So it is still a pretty good vehicle, though. You would think that lower price would mean a lower spec vehicle, but no, it's actually quite good. It does have all metal drivetrain, including front, rear dog bones and CVAs in the front. It's got a metal center shaft. It's got this nice aluminum chassis brace. Very fast, actually 3S. You know, maybe not quite as fast as some of those other vehicles, but you know, it's going to beat the Stampede. It's going to beat the Bullet. Pretty good power system out of the box. Slightly aluminum shocks, sort of hybrid shocks there. No real, you know, adjustments. You can move the shocks around a little bit, but it does have plastic tie rods here in the front and the rear. Downsides to this: I think parts availability is going to be the most difficult. Maverick is a smaller brand. It's actually owned by HPI, but here in the US, HPI is a little bit harder to get parts, and Maverick being kind of a subsidiary of HPI, it's even harder to get parts, especially because this is brand new. Hopefully they'll provide more parts availability there in the future. Radio is actually decent. It's a little bit smaller, you know, for a big hand it might be a little bit cramped, but for a little kid or something, it works totally fine. It does have a phone wheel, so there are no issues there. It is also a little bit smaller in size. The width is actually pretty good, but I think the wheelbase is the shortest of all of these, so a little bit smaller in size. It is 1/10 scale. It's certainly not as small as something like a Savage XS or something like that, but yeah, it works pretty good. It does have lights front and rear, but I think the best thing about this, it is a very, very good value. It is the cheapest, and I don't think you're really giving them much in terms of performance or anything like that. Drives really well. Does have a center slipper there in the back, so that works totally fine. The power system is great. It's not slow or anything. It's not super quick. I think these tires actually work pretty well, but the servo actually has very good speed and decent amount of torque. So certainly the steering, the performance is actually pretty good on this truck, even though it's the cheapest. So this is kind of the budget buy, just with the caveat that you may have a little bit more difficult finding parts out there. So we've taken a look at all the trucks, and I want to go through the third through first place finishers. So in third place, my particular choice would be the Maverick Quantum 2 Flux. It is the value choice. I think HPI really raised the bar on what you can do with a budget vehicle. Really, the only downside is the parts ability, but this is a great little truck. I think it drives well, pretty good durability, pretty good performance, certainly in the driving side, and still do like double backlift. So it's pretty good vehicle overall. In second place, I would go with the Team Associated Rival MT10. This is actually the most race-oriented of the 6 of these, besides the Tekno, of course, but just great driving little truck, plenty of power. Price is, I think, the second cheapest among all these, and it handles really, really well. Pretty good durability. I do think you can still break the arms under huge jumps. I've certainly landed big jumps and broken the arms, but overall, very durable vehicle. I know Kevin Talbot thinks this is the best monster truck out there. I would say it's really, really good. You know, it certainly has some pros and cons, but a great choice overall. And at that price, I think it's a fantastic vehicle. That leaves us with the winner, and my pick is the Arrma Granite 4x4 3S BLX, one of the oldest monster trucks that you can buy today, but I think it's still a fantastic vehicle. It really goes kind of neck and neck with the Team Associated Rival MT10. Sometimes I pick the Rival, sometimes I pick the Granite. It actually depends more on price than anything else. I used to pick the Granite. It was a little bit more expensive, but the arms I felt like were a little more durable. Then Team Associated fixed their arms, and the price a little bit lower, so I went with the Rival MT10 for a while, but this, again, is now $10 cheaper than the Rival MT10. So I'm going to go with this. Most durability, in my opinion. It is the fastest as well. It doesn't handle quite as well as the Rival MT10, but fantastic vehicle. Very durable. Just check out, you know, make sure you're not getting dirt in that power module, or consider maybe trying to shoehorn the 4S center diff in there. I think that will also fix some things. I suspect they might update this to a V4 with that center differential on some of the updates, but we don't know at this point. I certainly don't know, but great choice. So any of these vehicles are actually pretty good. You know, they all have their pros and cons. Nothing is perfect, but if you're going to buy one, my pick would be the Arrma Granite 4x4 3S BLX V3. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe buttons. Look for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.